Team Awesome is back!
That's right, Tangled Talk is back once again. And guys, we are still in the middle of our hiatus between seasons 2 and 3, and we still don't have news about when season 3 is going to start, and we are still getting antsy, but, you know, we're hanging in there.
When will the long winter end?
Well, you know, it's not that long yet. Honestly, it has like 3 months to go before I start getting like, okay, this is how long the last one was. Start up again. So tonight we have a very special guest on Tangled Talk, Ricky Roxburgh. Yay!
Hi.
Woo. Thanks for joining us, Ricky. As you all know, he is a writer on Tangled series, and he has had some of the, in our opinion, best episodes that have been aired so far. So tonight we're going to actually have him discussing, you know, his usual sort of thing, his process, his favorite characters, and whatnot. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Ricky. Tell us about what you do on the show, what you've done, you know, before the show, and anything else you want to let people know about you.
Okay. Well, hi. I am Ricky, and I started. Tangled was my first Disney show. Before that, and I started on that kind of end of 2014. Sort of the end of the year then, and before that, I did a little bit of work on DreamWorks Dragons, and I wrote a movie called Saving Santa that has like Martin Freeman in it and Tim Curry and stuff. And then before that, I wrote like a whole bunch of movies that never came out, and they were like really expensive files on people's computers. And before that, I did stand up and sketch comedy and stuff in the city. And then before that, I was friends with Disney characters. And then in Walt Disney World, that was like my summer job. And before that, I was a kid in high school.
Oh, we're going way back.
And before that, you were a kid in kindergarten, and before that, you were a zygote.
Yes. And then, yeah, and so as far as my involvement with Tangled, you know, my job on the show was to pitch stories and develop those stories into scripts and help develop, you know, both kind of the overall story of the show and then help, you know, build those stories that would fit into the overall arc and serve the characters and serve the overall story, and you know, make them funny and adventurous and a little scary and very sad.
Yes, you are very well known for being the one who makes us sad.
Yes.
Which is,
I just want to say for the record, this is weird because it's weird to me because like I'm not. It's actually something I discovered on Tangled, is that I love writing like the super emotional stories. But before that, I was not like, I've always been about like heart. Like that's something I love about Disney. I'm a big Disney nerd, as you know. But that was something that I didn't kind of. It wasn't like I was some emo kid when I was growing up, going like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna make people really sad. That's never been my thing. I've always been like class clown, wanting to make people laugh, wanting to do the silly things. So it's a little uncharacteristic, but it's sort of a label I wear with pride now.
It's funny because I know we've talked about it before, but literally anytime anything sad happens, even if your name isn't attached, I'm like, I think Ricky just ran into the writer's room and was like, hey, write the sad thing, and then left.
you know, it's really funny. I don't remember which viewing it was because I've seen the movie so many times, but there was one time when I was watching the movie. I think it was possibly last September when they, you know, how every September they do the Dream Big Princess thing and they'll like show each of the movies like for one weekend or whatever. So I went and I was watching Tangled in the theaters, and it gets to the end and Eugene has died and Rapunzel has not yet cried on him, and I automatically thought, damn you, Ricky!
Yeah, damn you, Ricky!
Wait a minute! Ricky had nothing to do with the movie, oh my gosh! So on that exact same vein though, so now that you've made yourself this name as the Chameleon Murderer and the Tower Toppler, so you are genuinely proud of this label even though this wasn't something that you were like seeking.
Yes. And I will say this, when we did Pascal's story, I left it, the initial draft, his mother survived.
Oh.
And then, because I was like, there's no way they're going to let me kill him. And then in his boards, Tom killed her. And I was like, yeah. And then we were like, and he's like, there's no way that's going to happen like that. There's no way they're going to let, like, I remember him being like that, you know, they'll probably have some kind of issue. And they didn't say anything. We're like, all right, let me just.
Guess she's dying.
Yeah.
So on that note, though, so what was it like for you at D23 Expo in 2017 to be sitting in a room full of fans viewing this prologue to this episode for the very first time?
Oh gosh, I mean, that was the single greatest Disney moment that I've ever had. That was because I mean, before that it was meeting Tigger for the first time and having him bounce down Main Street, you know, with me when I was 6 in Disney World, my 6th birthday. That was always sort of my like magical moment. And then I've had when I was friends with the characters and I was friends with Woody, I had some moments with I had one particular moment with a kid from Make-A-Wish, and that is like, you know, you kind of hold those things in your heart. But like when you're a kid, and literally when I was a kid, what I wanted to do was write for Disney. Like, so it's not like I thought, oh, I want to write some big sci-fi epic or something. Like, writing for Disney is what I wanted to do. So to be at the D23 Expo and be in that huge room, and I remember like before the thing went up and I was waiting outside, and when I met you guys actually for the first time, Jace texted me. Jace, the story editor, texted me, and he was already in there, and I guess they were testing the footage, and he's like, Pascal's story's up on the screen, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna go in there and see it. And so yeah, I mean, the thing that I remember, and actually one of the best things is that the clip is on YouTube of the footage in there.
Yeah.
And the thing that's great is that when you write it, all the moments that you want the people to feel sad, worried, you know, oh my God, he's dead, and then suddenly like you see the hair come down and stuff, and like all those gasps and the laughs when you know, when he pops up and he's like, huh, like all those things that you kind of never get to see, because when you write, you know, we write these things in an office, or I'll write them, you know, on my kid. I'll be like, my kids will be going to sleep and I'll be laying on the floor writing it or something like that. That's where you do it, but you don't hear the reaction really, not from the fans at least. And so to see it happening, it was surreal. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. So it was really great.
Yeah, I will say that I have to agree with you from the fans' point of view. There was something amazing, and I've had it in other experiences before, but this was the first time it was like really raw footage, where you're sitting in a room full of like-minded people, and everybody is experiencing this thing for the very first time, and everybody's reacting, and we're not just reacting to what's on screen, but we're feeding off each other's reactions also. And so it's like, so you get like, this room was primarily adults, as you may recall, as the audience. And so there's like no shame in gasping and crying and laughing. It's like, yeah, sure, we know this is a cartoon, but it's also like everybody in this room is feeling the exact same thing you're feeling at this exact same time. And once again, I do apologize for hitting you after the clip aired.
I was like,
I
couldn't feel anything. It was like, I was overwhelmed.
It was. I mean, that was stunning and spectacular, and that was kind of the best introduction we possibly could have had to you, was D23 Expo.
Yeah, no, that whole experience was amazing. I mean, like I said, it's weird because when you're a kid, you don't think something like that would ever happen, and then when it's your stuff up there, and it's like, wow, like my team chose like something that I did to go up there. Well, you know, that's a huge compliment. And the fact that they were reacting to that, the way they, like the crowd was reacting to that, the way that they were, and it was still in the storyboard. I mean, it was still in rough not rough story. Tom Caulfield doesn't do rough storyboards.
No, he does not. He does not.
but what you know what I mean is it's not finished animation is what I mean, and I don't believe it was finished sound or I don't even think it may have been finished score. I don't remember, but it was still in a pretty bare bones state. So to get that kind of reaction off of that, I think is pretty amazing. And I was really, still to this day, I'm extremely proud of that episode and happy when I think of that day.
So, is that your favorite episode that you wrote, or do you have a different one that you actually kind of like more?
I have three. That are my favorite episodes that I wrote. That one, Happiness is number 2, and then the other one I can't tell you about because
Season 3.
Yeah. The season 3 mid-season is the other one.
Okay.
So,
All we've heard about that one is that it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'd say we're ready, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're never ready.
No, we think we are, but we're wrong.
We're not.
So do you have a favorite character?
My favorite character is Pascal.
Okay.
Aw.
That's adorable.
Yeah. And then my favorite character to write is King Trevor.
Yeah.
I think I remember you mentioning that, and my thought when you said your favorite character was King Trevor, is like King Trevor, and that was like before Brothers Hook came out.
When we only had, that's when we only had
one
Trevor
episode. And we were in the middle of season 2, so that one Trevor episode was a long time ago, and we're like, Trevor? Why is Trevor your favorite? You didn't even write that episode. What are you talking about? No, but yeah.
So when I got a shot at writing a script of him all to myself, I was like, but like, yeah, my scripts for him, like my first drafts are absurd because I give him so many lines. I just get like eye rolls from everybody from all the terrible like. But he's so shamelessly conceited and foppish, and I mean I could write him all day. He's my favorite.
Yeah, he is ridiculously fun. I will give you that. And Brothers Hook was unexpectedly completely delightful. Like, we heard that there was going to be an episode where Hookhand was in it, and then, we got the episode description, and of course, it didn't have the overarching theme of their battling Trevor for the fate of, Hookhand or whatever it was. But so it was really interesting when Trevor showed up. It was like, excuse me, what are you doing out of Equus, sir? And then of course, the horrible pun heard round the world.
Oh yeah.
That was, oh man, Ricky, man, oh man.
Tom just in glorious fashion soaks, lets him chew the scenery with the extreme close up. So
it was awesome.
Yeah.
I just remember that like a couple days before the episode aired, you and Tom were like teasing people on Twitter about the line. You'll know it when you hear it.
Yeah.
I swear to God, there was like a planet-wide groan when that line got revealed. It's like, oh God, that was it. That was the line.
Yeah. No, I was.
Are you sure that was the line? Are you sure it wasn't, go follow your dream? I'm like, oh no, it was a skill tip. So, do you have any episode that you did not write but you particularly like?
Whew, no. I love in season 1. There's this one like I love the Monty episode, and I get like there's a lot of them. I love and again I don't remember the titles as well because it's been so long, but Lance's first episode.
Oh
yes,
God, yeah,
good one.
Big Brothers of Corona, another.
Oh God, Big Brothers of Corona is like my favorite from season 1. It's just the best.
Still my favorite from season 1. No longer my favorite overall episode. I'm sorry. Destinies Collide kicked everyone in the face.
They're good.
And then I'm trying to think. I love High Seas. I think
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Good one.
and then there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple that you guys I can't talk about that I.
Mm.
It's easy to
Right.
remember the ones that I like, the more recent ones because
They were more recent.
yeah, they're more recent.
So you obviously, as we just said, you can't talk about episodes that haven't aired or episodes that got cut entirely. But are there any scenes that got cut from episodes that were made that you really wish had made it into the episode?
There was in Pascal's story, I had more of a journey to the tower written in there, and there was a scene where he runs into he's kind of like the way he got there was he jumped on a wagon, then he hops off the wagon, and then there was like a scene where he gets kind of attacked by these there's these birds and he's trying to eat a berry and then he ends up meeting this like hapless minstrel, and he first and it's a way of showing how he really misses Rapunzel even though he's running away, because the minstrel is like one of these guys with like very long blonde hair and he's like a crap minstrel, and he's got a similar issue to Pascal, that he's pining for this woman who has jilted him in favor of some other guy, and he's singing terrible minstrel songs, and we were trying to get Chris Elliott to do the voice of him, and I would say he was almost like an early, almost like another Trevor, because he was very. I like writing dandies, I guess, but he starts off being kind of a pal to Pascal, and then all the songs quickly annoy Pascal, and then he jumps away, and but he rides on his shoulder part of the way. So that was one of the things that I loved. And then I'd say that there are less than I don't know that I really remember. Other than that, I don't really remember too many scenes that got cut breaking my heart, because I feel like they usually were, unless I'm just forgetting about it now. It's more, but there have been episodes or pitches that I came up with that I pitched and they didn't go through, and I was like, "Arr!" So, but I can't talk about them.
Fair.
And I mean, that's just by the way, I don't want to make it seem like I'm complaining. It's like that's the way it is. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's my show where I get to do whatever I want. It's like, you come up with all these different ideas, and I mean, I feel super thankful for the amount of things I got through. Like I feel like I got a lot of my stuff through, and Chris and Ben and Jace were always like super supportive of like my enthusiasm, however annoying it may be. So I would say, yeah, there's stuff that didn't go through, but man, the amount of stuff that I did get through is like, I'm really thankful for it.
Okay, so when you write an episode that has a song in it, how does that go in the script? Is it just like insert Eugene's soulful ballad here?
Well, it is. What we do is because we'll know we have a song in that episode, right? We have had episodes where we say we would like to add a song here, like we kind of pitch that a song would go well here. Like I think I think it went that way for Hook Hand. I think we said, I remember sort of like requesting that we get a song in that one, and I can't remember if it was like kind of predetermined that the bird one would have that.
Oh yeah.
But I remember that kind of early on being it. But anyway, usually, and then in the tent poles, we know that we're gonna have 2 or 3 songs in there like that. whatever. I don't, and that's something we're always just sort of told. And since Jace typically does the head polls, he kind of knows if there's a song going in it, so he'll just do it. But the way it goes is basically, you know, when the outline's being written, there will be a section that says like, you know, whatever leads into the song. It then says song, and then the description will say something along the lines of an upbeat, you know, pub tune that tells us about Ruthless Ruth's experience and what her advice is for Rapunzel. And it may include blah, blah, blah. And so we'll just sort of describe what the song will do story-wise and the tone of what the song would be.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's usually about a paragraph describing that.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so in that line, what actually is like the creative process for writing an episode?
Well, typically early on in the season, we have the season arc, you know, the overall where we're starting, where we're ending, kind of where we're going to be in the middle. And you can almost imagine the structure sort of like if you look at a building with pillars or whatever, and it's like the roof is the storyline, and then those pillars are sort of like, okay, each pillar is like something happens here, something happens here, something happens here, something happens here, right? And the in-between stuff is connective tissue to support those things, right? And so depending on where we are in the season, we will pitch stories that fit where the characters are, what needs to happen. Definitely, you know, if there's a, and usually it'll be like, okay, well, this is more of a standalone episode. This is a, you know, this is something that's mythology heavy. Like we'll kind of know that going in, and so if it's a mythology heavy episode, there may be certain things that we know will happen, you know, and or know that have to happen, and so we'll pitch the story around that and see how we can get there, and typically like Ben and Chris would be a little bit more involved in the breaking of that story, and Jace would be more involved in the breaking of that story, like and we kind of like, I guess we have like less involvement in those typically, not none, but they usually handle those, unless I'm right, like in season 3 when I was working on the temples, like I'm involved in that, you know. So basically what happens once we know what kind of episode we're going to do, then we'll go away and blue sky. We'll get like a day or two, we call it blue skying, where we just kind of come up with story springboards, and they'll be, you know, beginning, middle, end, right? And then we go in a big room, and we'll either send them all to Jace, and he'll comb through them and pick his favorites, or we'll talk about them in the room and kind of talk, like circle, everybody will kind of like, he'll circle his favorites, and then we'll talk about maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 of them, and you know, the one that everybody's gravitating toward, that might be the one that we then pitch to like Chris and Ben, and then that's if they don't have a story, you know what I mean? Like sometimes they would come to us with like, oh, this is the thing that's going to happen, but if it's, you know,
right.
But in general, like that's kind of what we do. And then, and depending on whose episode it was, when that episode is chosen, we would then break the story out in the room, out into like kind of 3-act structure, bulleted beats. And then after that, once we have the beats kind of signed off on by Ben and Chris, we'd go away and write the premise, which is like a 5-page document that is more prose than anything.
Okay.
And that it leans less on the specifics of the action and more on the emotional character story. So when there's action, we'll gloss over the action. It'll just say like, oh, there's a big battle and blah, 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 blah. And then in the end, this is kind of how it falls out, right?
Okay.
But so we don't have to map out all that stuff. But we definitely have to say like why they're feeling this way and why they're going into this fight and why they're coming out of it. So that's that kind of thing. And then we do an outline, which is basically the script with very little dialogue. Almost no dialogue, and then after that, once that's approved and everything and gone through the executives, and each one of these things has to go through the executives and through Chris and
right.
Ben and stuff, of course. So insert that. Sorry, I'm so detailed.
We like the details. We really do.
Sorry. Anybody that's listening to this while they're driving is falling asleep. But so just speed it up. And then the last thing is the script. And we do about 2 or 3 passes on the script. And somewhere in there may be like a punch-up session where all the writers sit in the room and see if we can find additional jokes or make certain lines stronger or whatever. And then we're done. Then it goes to the story team.
That's very cool. So the next question would be, what is the best thing and the worst thing about writing for television?
Ooh. Well, the best thing is working with the team because they become your family. They become close friends and like family because you're with them all the time and you're all building something together, even if you're not in the same room every single day, even if you're not going over every single moment together. Everybody's sharing this one vision and shepherding it to completion. And you'll just like a family, you'll butt heads occasionally, or something might happen that you don't agree with, but at the end of the day, like everybody just cares about it. Everybody cares about it so much, and so being a part of that process and being able to collaborate on something and then see it go up in typically like in the animatics when we have a pitch or when we have the premiere, when we have like a premiere party or whatever, and you see it on TV, like knowing that you all work together and the friends we make along the way. The worst thing, the worst thing is, I know for me, I'm a perfectionist, and you always want to make it better, but a TV schedule is really tight. Mm-hmm. So, like Tangled the movie, I don't know how long they had to make it, but I think it was something like 10 or 12 years.
11, I think. Yeah.
So it was a really long time. And that's multiple iterations. So it's not like they took that long to write one script. But, they take a very, very long time to make those things. And they're making, an hour and a half of content. And we have, 70 plus episodes to make. And we're doing it in, I started at the end of 2014 and I was done in sort of toward the end of 2018. So it's like, that's about, just shy of 4 years, you're making so much more content. So the time just isn't there. Yeah. And it's there. Like, I don't want to say like, there, that's just a TV schedule. You're making more content and you're making it faster. And so I think everybody wishes they had like a little bit longer to make it just a little bit better, because everybody wants to make it just a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But
okay.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite moment in the series that we have seen so far? Obviously, you can't have a favorite moment that we haven't seen yet. Well, you can, but don't tell us about that. But what's your favorite moment that we have seen?
Oh, jeez. Honestly, my favorite moment is when Rapunzel brings Pascal back to life. That's my favorite moment.
That's a very great moment. It was brilliantly done, like all the way around. It was just this, very impactful. Like, it's like, because everybody watching the series knows she can do this, you know?
Mhm.
And it was done so masterfully. I mean, between the writing and the animation, it was just like, it was stunning and breathtaking, and this black screen with this gold magic swirling around it. And yeah, that was very well done, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, and it's meant to connect to the movie.
Yeah.
There's that part where when she's healing Eugene's hand, and Pascal is kind of like, check this out. Like, if you look at that moment through the lens of that scene where it's like, look, I was dead, she brought me back. This is gonna blow your mind. Like, that same kind of that expression is meant, like, that scene is meant to inform that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just something that I love that moment.
I mean, that actually does a very good segue into just thanks in general for paying such close detail and like throwing in all these movie references, because it really does make the series feel connected to the movie, because a lot of people like, well, I don't know, it kind of, you get animated series that feel like separate from the movie because it's like, oh, it's the same universe sort of, but doesn't really feel the same. But I mean, having all those little nods, it genuinely does feel the same, because it's like, oh yeah, this character would say that kind of thing on a regular basis. This wasn't a one-time deal. Or, you know, in that particular example, yeah, Pascal knows what her magic can do, so it makes perfect sense. And
right.
So so thanks for throwing in that. I mean, between you and Tom, you guys are the callback kings. And
Thank you for bringing back our monkey boy. Oh my
Yes.
God. And in such a fantastic way.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Lord.
goodness
Oh
gracious.
my God.
I mean, to this day, I still use the monkey as Demanitus. I mean, I know that wasn't you, but I do use the monkey as Demanitus as like my catch-all phrase, meaning anything can happen in this series.
Yeah, that was all Chris. Like, I remember when he pitched that to us, I was like, I remember like everybody's looking like, and he was like jumping up. He was like, so
Yeah.
he was like me when I get a stupid idea, just like, it was just, only it wasn't stupid. Like, like what I mean is like, it was just crazy. Like, and everybody looking at each other like, the monkey's Demanitus? Like, everybody's just looking at like, at Chris, like trying to wrap our heads around how we do this, you know? And it was so like, and then I remember like after the meeting, and I remember he because he totally had it like all like how, you know, how it would reveal and stuff. I don't know like mechanically in the episode how it would unfold, but just the idea that he hid in this monkey and did all this thing, and like then that way he would sort of have appeared in the movie, and it was just really well thought out. And we like went back to the writer's room, and we're just sort of looking at each other, monkey's Demanitus? and then like once you do it, you're like, oh, that's awesome, you know, like thought it was awesome, but at the same time we were like, why? How are we, like, because you get this thing where it's like, even if there's an idea that's cool, you wonder, how the hell are we gonna
how do we
that?
pull that off?
Yeah.
Like, you think
That's the one spoiler that I regret.
Oh,
Yeah.
That is the only one we have gotten so far that I was like, dang it, that would have been. We all would have just been like, wait,
losing
what?
our collective mind if we had not known that was coming.
Oh,
Darn you,
I mean,
Google.
It was actually, it was really sad because like someone leaked it on Google. You know, it was like if you did a Google search, then you would come up with this episode description, and that wasn't the approved episode description, but it had the pertinent information in it. And I don't know who got it out there, but dang, I was not happy that I knew that. But honestly, bringing Vigor into it was just so stupendous, because it's like that is some eye candy for anybody who loves the movie as much as we love the movie. Because like first you get the people who like, hey, that's that monkey from the credits. I'm like, yeah, but have you seen the cut scene? You know, do you know who that monkey is? That monkey is someone important. So bringing Vigor back in, when we saw him on the season 2 poster, I just about lost my mind.
me too. I was so excited. I watched the deleted scenes over and over and over again.
And having him actually be like a major player was like incredible.
One fun thing about that episode is that when they see Angry outside, initially I had her standing by her parents' graves.
Oh.
That would have been
Ow!
And Mickey brings the pain again.
And Steven, if you watch the episode and look, there's 2 butterflies that fly by, and
Yeah, really prominently.
Yeah, and we cut everybody was like, "You can't have the gravestones, Ricky," like that. Like that. And
You can murder Pascal's mom, but you can't have the graves.
and so it was just sort of like implied that that they weren't there, and Steven put in the butterflies going past, and that's meant to represent the parents.
Aw.
Cool.
More dead parents. Love that in Disney.
Yeah.
What a surprise, Disney. More dead parents.
No one's allowed to have living parents, or if they're alive, they're not very nice or well developed. No, but that's actually a really cool little tidbit right there, that the butterflies are her parents' spirits or whatever, however. Because, interestingly, I had seen somebody on Tumblr at some point mention something about the significance of butterflies, and there's like a spiritual connection, something or another. And the interesting thing with this fandom is that we will look for clues anywhere. And so you see people throwing out theories based on, tarot, or based on this religion, or based on that Wicca thing, or whatever.
Just a pair of eyes.
Yeah, just a pair of eyes at the top of a tarot card, and maybe that's his dad.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that I'm not going to say what it is, but like nobody has, not that I've seen anyway, nobody has spotted it, and I'm like, why did nobody?
Now we gotta watch it all over again.
Yeah.
Darn.
And somewhere, and hopefully like nobody's gonna be like, you're a sport, because it's not. It doesn't. It's something that you wouldn't recognize until like somebody.
Until it happens.
Well, no, until it gets pointed out. Like,
I see.
You have to, because it's in an aired episode.
Okay.
But I'm not. I don't want to. I don't. It's.
No, you've given me a new mystery. I need a new mystery.
Yeah. But there's one thing that's in. It's somewhere in the show. I'm not even going to tell you what episode. But somewhere in the show, there's something that's like pretty crazy, and like I have not seen anybody bring it up, and I'm surprised. I'm quite frankly disappointed.
It's gonna haunt me now. Damn you, Ricky.
Dark Prince Eugene 10 months before it happened. You can't be disappointed in me.
Yeah, and yet you missed this.
Don't you dare, Ricky.
See, that's like a horrible tease, because that's just like, I'm gonna give you this vague idea that there's something there, but you have no idea what it is or where it is. So have fun.
Oh.
We're gonna build a crazy crack theory like bird variant.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
that could still be true.
Bird variant.
You leave my bird variant alone.
Honestly, I will go back to the monkey is the manatee, and the thing that I love the most about that is that's like one of Kelsey's crack theories, is that the monkey is the manatee.
I'm so disappointed I didn't come up with that. Like, I'm so mad.
Me too.
And we both would have been psychic, Kelsey. Oh, that would have been
But that would have left me out. Darn. Oh, wait, no, I've been predicting this show a lot. Never mind. Never mind. I take it back.
You've predicted like half the show by this point.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I think that just about wraps up our Q&A. Thank you very much for joining us, Ricky. This was a lot of fun.
Of course.
And we would love to have you on again in season 3 at some point if we have the opportunity to.
Of course.
So very cool. So thank you all for listening, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.